It was 3:54 a.m. Moscow time today, when the first explosions ripped through the stillness of the early morning sky. Within minutes, plumes of fire lit up Russia's industrial horizon, an estimated $5 billion in energy assets under attack. Another massive wave of Ukrainian long-range drone strikes had struck deep inside Russian territory. The targets, once again, were oil refineries, the backbone of Russia's energy system. This morning's coordinated assault marks one of the largest single-day attacks since the campaign began 2 months ago, and analysts are already calling it a severe blow to the Kremlin's economy. According to early intelligence reports from Kyiv Post and Ukrainian military sources, dozens of kamikaze drones launched from Ukrainian-controlled regions flew more than 1,500 kilometers into Russian airspace, targeting oil processing facilities in the Perm and Bashkortostan regions. The explosions that followed were so powerful that emergency services across several Russian provinces were placed on full alert. Witnesses reported seeing massive fireballs rising over industrial zones, while local officials scrambled to contain fires spreading through fuel storage tanks and pipelines. Preliminary estimates suggest that these latest strikes could disable an additional 8 to 10% of Russia's refining capacity, on top of the 40% already knocked offline in recent months. This was not an isolated strike, but a continuation of a calculated campaign that Ukraine's intelligence and special operations forces began on August 2nd. Since then, more than 55 drone attacks have been recorded across Russia's energy infrastructure, many hitting refineries multiple times. Some facilities have now been struck 3 or even 4 times, preventing repair crews from restoring operations. The small but deadly drones, each roughly the size of a light aircraft and carrying around 200 kilograms of explosives, are designed for pinpoint accuracy. A single hit on a refining unit can halt production for weeks, if not months. Russia's defense ministry claimed to have intercepted hundreds of incoming drones, but open-source videos and satellite imagery indicate multiple fires, despite interception claims. Videos shared online show pillars of smoke visible from over 50 kilometers away, with firefighters working for hours to contain blazes that continue to burn well into the following day. The financial toll of this morning's operation could exceed $500 million in direct damage, according to early assessments from energy analysts in Europe. Combined with previous losses, the total financial impact of Ukraine's long-range drone campaign is now estimated to surpass $5.6 billion. These strikes have crippled production chains, forced the shutdown of vital fuel depots, and thrown Russia's domestic logistics into disarray. In some regions, agricultural and construction sectors have already slowed due to fuel scarcity, and airlines are reportedly facing jet fuel shortages that could disrupt domestic flights in the coming weeks. The Kremlin has quietly ordered regional governors to introduce rationing policies to prevent panic buying, but reports from local media show that the situation is worsening daily. The economic pain is compounded by Russia's reliance on its vast energy exports to finance its war in Ukraine. Each refinery disabled means fewer barrels of oil being refined into diesel and gasoline, leading to lower export volumes and shrinking profits for the government. Retail fuel prices across Russia have soared by 20 to 40%, and in rural regions, the increase has been even higher. In places like Yakutia, Kirov, and Buryatia, many fuel stations have run out entirely, forcing residents to wait in queues stretching several kilometers. Videos circulating on Telegram show frustrated drivers pushing cars with empty tanks, shouting at attendants, and accusing authorities of hoarding supplies for military use. The crisis is becoming more visible by the day, and it is hitting ordinary Russians where it hurts most, their wallets. The Russian Ministry of Energy continues to downplay the problem, blaming temporary disruptions and promising a rapid recovery. But experts say those promises are hollow. Satellite imagery confirms that several major refineries remain offline, their infrastructure too damaged to resume operations anytime soon. Even facilities that avoided direct hits are now operating at reduced capacity due to damaged supply pipelines or electrical systems. Energy watchdogs in Europe report that Russia's ability to process crude oil into fuel has already dropped by nearly half compared to pre-war levels. This decline, they warn, isn't temporary. It could take months, even years, to restore full capacity. Ukraine's decision to focus on energy infrastructure represents a shift in strategy. Rather than relying solely on frontline combat, Kyiv is targeting the economic arteries that fund Russia's war machine. Every drone strike that disables a refinery weakens Moscow's ability to sustain military operations. It's a form of economic warfare, designed to stretch Russia's defenses and force it to divert resources away from the battlefield. According to military analysts, this approach has been highly effective. By attacking energy facilities deep inside Russia, Ukraine is forcing the Kremlin to spread its air defense systems thin, leaving fewer interceptors to protect cities near the front lines. Inside Russia, the pressure is building. Lieutenant Andriy Kovalenko, head of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council's Center for Countering Disinformation, stated earlier today that Russia's energy grid deficit has reached 25 gigawatts, a figure that experts describe as catastrophic. He emphasized that this is not a sudden failure, but a systemic collapse caused by sanctions, poor maintenance, and the steady degradation of Soviet-era equipment. The system is bursting at the seams, Kovalenko warned. This is not a random malfunction, it's a consequence of corruption, sanctions, and war. He accused Moscow of neglecting its domestic power needs while pouring money into military projects and propaganda. The situation is dire enough that 42 Russian regions have now been forced to impose electricity restrictions during peak hours. Factories in Siberia, the Far East, and central industrial areas are operating under partial load limits. Reports of power outages are increasing, particularly in regions that depend on long-distance transmission lines. The head of Russia's Central Power Supply Agency cautioned that the next stage could be rolling blackouts, describing the energy system as unstable and unpredictable. He added that if more strikes occur this month, Russia could face the worst energy crisis since the 1990s. Despite the unfolding domestic emergency, Moscow continues to fund nuclear construction projects abroad, especially in Africa, through its state-owned corporation, Rosatom. Critics both inside and outside Russia have called this move reckless, questioning why billions are being sent overseas, while Russian citizens face a cold and uncertain winter. The Kremlin is building power for others while leaving its own people in the dark, said Kovalenko. Putin is prioritizing political theater over survival. His remarks highlight a growing sentiment among analysts that Russia's leadership is losing control of its own economy while trying to maintain the image of a global power. Not all experts agree on the extent of the crisis, but most acknowledge that Ukraine's drone offensive has changed the game. Mikhailo Honcha, president of the Strategy 21 Center for Global Studies, explained that although drones have smaller payloads, around 50 to 200 kilograms, their precision allows them to cause massive operational disruption. They are not ballistic missiles, he said, but they can shut down a transformer, destroy pipelines, or disable refining towers. One strike may not destroy a city, but it can halt production worth millions. He added that repairing modern refining systems without Western technology is almost impossible under current sanctions. The damage extends far beyond the refineries themselves. Each time a facility goes offline, Russia's transportation and logistics networks are thrown into chaos. Diesel shortages mean fewer trains and trucks can operate, delaying deliveries of everything from food to construction materials. In major cities, public transport authorities have begun rationing fuel for buses and municipal vehicles. Taxi prices in Moscow and St. Petersburg have spiked due to scarcity, and long-distance travel is becoming increasingly difficult. The disruption has already started to slow down Russia's manufacturing output, and economists warn of inflationary pressure in the months ahead. Meanwhile, the psychological impact of the strikes is becoming increasingly visible. For years, the Russian population has been largely insulated from the direct consequences of the war. Now, with gas stations empty and power cuts spreading, millions are beginning to feel its cost firsthand. Social media platforms are flooded with complaints and sarcastic posts mocking the government's promises. Some residents in border regions like Belgorod and Kursk have even begun to question why their own military can't protect them from attacks coming from hundreds of kilometers away. Ukraine, however, shows no sign of slowing down. Officials in Kyiv have described today's operation as part of a continuing strategy to weaken Russia's war capacity before winter. By keeping the refineries offline, Ukraine ensures that Moscow faces not just military exhaustion, but economic suffocation. The drones have become symbols of resistance, small, silent, and relentless, each one carrying not just explosives, but a clear message. The cost of invasion will continue to rise. As the sun rose over Moscow this morning, black smoke was still curling into the sky from multiple impact sites. Firefighters continued their battle against towering flames, while regional authorities urged calm and warned citizens not to spread false information. But beneath those reassurances, panic is growing. Russia's once mighty energy network, its pride and its leverage, is bleeding from within. Its refineries are burning, its factories are slowing, and its people are waiting in endless queues for fuel that may never come. Today's attack has proven once again that Ukraine's drones are not just weapons, they are instruments of strategy. Each explosion chips away at Russia's confidence, eroding the myth of invincibility that once surrounded the Kremlin. What began at 4:17 a.m. as a few distant explosions has now evolved into a full-scale economic assault, one that may define the coming winter in Russia as cold, dark, and full of doubt.